Yes, yes, y'all. It is time for thedailybreadproject.com. Got my guest here who I am going to allow to pop on the mic. And then we're going to bring this thing live to Facebook. Thedailybreadproject.com is what you're listening to. Let's see. Chris is getting on. So I'm just going to get this thing going on Facebook. And then we're going to rock with this. There. Is that you, Ax?
It is me, sir.
There he is.
You know
All right.
what? Let me join in the party with the hat.
All right, it looks like we're going to record this thing because Facebook is misbehaving and ain't nobody got time for that. I know you got an appointment or you got something. You had a hard stop, so
I
I
do
don't
it
want.
later, man.
Man, how you doing? It's so good to see you. It's been a while, brother.
I know it has been.
Yes, yes. So this, friends, is Chris Axelrod from the More Patience, More Impact, More Income show. He is an OG from the podcast factory from back in the day. Just wish I would have sent you one of these hats and then we'd be matching. What is up, brother?
I'm good, man. Just chilling, just doing my thing,
Yeah.
hanging out, you know.
So let's jump into this. I like to talk about positivity, power,
Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
leadership,
Yeah.
and I know that I've known you for years, and those are all on your daily agenda, and you've been doing this for years, like leading with positivity. And so I'm a big fan of your work. I'm glad you're here, and I want to ask you, man, how are you staying positive these days? What are you doing to keep upbeat?
Well, one thing I always remember is that I don't control anything outside of me. I really don't have zero control over anything outside of myself. So, bottom line is that knowing that, then the choice is really simple. Do I want to be sad and mad and upset and frustrated and scared, or do I want to enjoy the moment because that I have that choice? I can control that. I can't control like what's happening in the world, and I can't control what politicians are doing and the economy and all that stuff. So, you know, I always envision myself like, hey, if I lost all my stuff, what would happen? Well, I still have the same choice. Wake up and just have a good time, or wake up and be upset. And, it's like just knowing that even with like no stuff, I can still have a good time. And, you know, that's kind of it, man.
It
In a
sounds so
nutshell.
basic. It sounds, yeah, for most people in the world, it's almost too basic. And I get it. I get it. We have power. We have power over this domain right here, us,
That's
our
it.
body, our soul, our mind. So when it's getting crazy, whether it's what's happening now or any other pressures in the world,
Yeah.
how do you get centered and enjoy the moment?
Well, that can't just happen. Like, it's a skill you have to develop. So anytime we enter a crisis, we're going to be tested at the level we're at. It's not something where you can just suddenly snap your finger. It's kind of like this. If I said to you, hey, look, you're going to have to run a marathon tomorrow, and you don't have a choice. I've signed you up for it, and you're going to have to run the damn thing. Not only that, but I'm not going to let you stop running, no matter how tired you get.
Can I jog?
Well, you just can't walk. All
Okay.
right. You're not going to be able to walk. Basically, at that point, you can't just train in one day to be able to finish a marathon, right? Yeah. So that's what happens when we enter a crisis. When we enter a crisis, we're sort of like, okay, here's the marathon, and you're going to have to run it. And if you're not in shape for it, if you don't have the skill yet, then it's going to be a rough marathon. It's going to be rough. You'll get through it. You'll get through it, hopefully. But So this is something that you have to practice every single day. You know, it's what you're doing when things aren't bad that determines how you do when they get bad, you know. So everybody, again, you know, it's like, are you spending all your money? Because if you're spending all your money when things are good, then when things get bad, you're not going to have any, you know. So, or are you, you know, saving and being disciplined and, you know, all that? Well, then guess what? When things get bad, you're still going to be disciplined. You're going to be able to, like, even spend less and even save, you know, really try to really cut. It's like when you enter the crisis with and really with no principles, um, then yeah, I mean, it's a rough ride. But you know, that happened to me. I mean, 2008, when Hurricane Ike hit Houston and the recession hit. I wrote my first crisis was, it was like being on a boat, on a little tiny sailboat in the middle of a hurricane. You know, uh, it was real rough. But you know, the thing is, then you learn from that. If you have the right frame, if you don't, you know, the key is, like, again, like I said, you don't you don't control what other people are doing, what's going on. So there's going to be people who come out of this, all they're going to be doing is thinking, whose fault was it? Whose fault was it that I suffered? Whose fault was it that I ran out of money? Whose fault was it that I didn't get my check in time? Whose fault, you know, da 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 da. And you know, look, at the end of the day, it does, none of that really matters. Like, what you need to be thinking about is, the next time something like that happens, how can I make sure that I don't need that check? How can I make sure that I'm not depending on someone else's having their stuff together? How can I make sure that I have my stuff together? And so, again, it's not something you just flip a switch. But what I would say is that, again, the more that you just let go of the idea that you have control over, that you can control what's going on. Like, people get frustrated and upset because they want things to be different, and they'll fixate on that frustration because things aren't changing. It's like, I just want the economy to get better. Well, you know, I mean, the little drop in the ocean that you are, you're not going to change the entire economy. So um, you can sit there and get fixated on that, and just continue to go round and round on that, and it's not going to change. As soon as you go, yep, there's nothing I can do to change the economy. Let's just see what I can do to, like, I don't know, make my house look nicer, or just something productive that I can do to help myself feel better. Then you know, that centers you. That brings you back to here, like here and now. Like, what can I do?
I like it. I like it. So, what I hear you saying is, if you're trying to prepare for the crisis now, maybe it's a little too late. But what you can do is be aware of where you are right now, and make a choice to change things, so the next time this comes, you're in a better position. And here's what I find interesting, and here's something that, it's not to brag, but it's to demonstrate your point.
Mhm.
I got my ass handed to me in 2008. I mean,
Yeah.
I lost it all. And
Yeah.
I vowed never to let that happen again. And that's why I built this other business. See, I have
Same
the
thing
real
happened.
estate, I
Yeah,
have
same thing
this.
happened.
Right. It was like, can't do anything about this, but I can do something to prepare for the next one. And it took a long time. I mean, there was ups and downs, but here we are. And this storm, I know it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I also feel like I'm better prepared for it. That could also be a maturity thing. I mean, we're talking 12 years ago. And so that might be, you just get older and wiser.
Yeah. Well, you know, another thing, you know, another thing to live by, I think it would helps everyone, anyone who thinks this way, is, you know, you always hope for the best. Hope for the best. Like, live with hope. Live with a positive frame about the future, but prepare for the worst. Be prepared for the worst. A lot of people confuse that. They think, well, if I'm preparing for the worst, I'm being negative. You know, if I'm, you know, preparing for the worst, if if I, there's that saying, like, if you died to a penny with your name, you haven't lived, which is total BS. Okay. I mean, it's like, no, the goal isn't to like spend all your money every day and live life to the fullest because you might be gone tomorrow. I mean, we all might be gone tomorrow, but the point is, you can live and have a great time and still save money and still prepare for, you know, unexpected, like, bad things to happen, right? Unexpected difficulties. So um, that's kind of the balance, being hopeful and really living with that positivity and not and cultivating that positivity. But on the other side, being realistic and like, look, I mean, I gotta be prepared because the one thing I will tell you, the one guarantee is that things will not stay the same. So, the thing is, with this awesome economy that we had up until very recently, um, I think there was kind of this false sense of security a lot of people were building up, like, oh, we've got it figured out now, dude. Like, we've solved the Rubik's Cube, and we are gonna just be like prosperous for all eternity. So don't worry about it anymore. Hey, man, guess what? That's just not how things work. So no matter how good it gets, you always got to realize that you don't, and again, don't live as if like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Don't like, don't squelch your fun and all that just because you understand. In fact, I would say, because you understand and you've accepted that things will always change and that nothing lasts forever, you're going to have a lot more fun all the time, and you're going to be prepared for things to change because you've already accepted that they will, right?
I
So there
love
you
it,
go.
man. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm getting this picture in my mind that the hope is like you're building this big wall of hope that's protecting you from all the negative things out there. But then behind it, you've got the preparation. You're putting sandbags just in case the wall does not hold up. And so that preparation, I think preparation gives you peace, because when the
Yeah,
stuff hits the fan, you still feel at peace because you have prepared for it. And
yeah.
I'm with you. I want to live. I want to have fun, but I don't want to have a bad time when the stuff hits the fan either.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think, what we're dealing with right now is historic. This is a historic event. It's not a normal recession or something like that. This is a World War II level kind of historic event without, the genocide, without the carpet bombing. So we should all be pretty thankful, really, honestly, that for the most part, even though, yeah, we're exposed to a lot of economic risks. I mean, here's the thing, there is not a person on planet right now, I don't care how rich or poor, that is not exposed to some severe economic risks. Okay. And so the bottom line is that, you know, we're all dealing with this, and it's a global situation. It's a unique situation. It's a unprecedented situation. So nobody really knows what to do. Nobody knows exactly how to deal with it. But the thing is that, what choice do we have? What choice do we have to get through this? I mean, again, looking at other types of historic events, things that are like those milestones in the history books. And this is going to be one of them, the great pandemic of 2020. It's going to be a milestone in the history books, and it's going to be talked about 100, 200, 300 years from now if there's still humans here. So the bottom line is that no matter how bad we think we've got it, I want you to look back at some of those other milestone historical events and realize, like, we're skating pretty good right now. And chances are it's not going to get to the point. Could it always get to the point where all of a sudden we have a lot of social, civil unrest, and people are in the streets looting? And I mean, sure, it could all. all those possibilities are always on, they're always on the table. That stuff's always on the table. But the bottom line is that the chances of that happening are slim to none.
I
And
love it, man.
so, at the end of the day, we have to be thankful that, this is a pretty, um, tame situation compared to what a lot of our ancestors went through. Um, so again, it's about looking at the big picture. It's about, when you know history and you understand the relative nature of what you're dealing with, it can help you to really, just sort of put things in the right perspective, and not, catastrophize it, not make this big mountain out of a molehill. Excuse me. Is it still, you know, does it suck? Yeah, it sucks. But you're sitting in your air conditioned house. I'm sitting in my air conditioned house. I got food in my pantry. You got food in your pantry. I mean, in World War II in Europe, people were like living in their cellar with like a couple loaves of bread and a candle. You know what I'm saying? And their house was like, you know, troops were coming through and there were bombs going off everywhere. And I mean, just got to keep it relative, again, keep your perspective on this. It's not that bad, and it's
That's a
likely not going
beautiful
to get that
picture.
much worse.
Yeah, like the house is trembling with explosions going off. And it's like, it's a statement to how soft we've gotten, because you're right. People are like, oh, I'm stuck in my house with your Netflix, with your Amazon,
Yeah,
with food being delivered, right?
right. With your DoorDash and your flat screen TV, binge watching Friends or something, right?
Yeah.
When like 100 years ago, or whatever, like 80 years ago, uh, World War II. And you know what? It had a huge effect on the United States, even though the United States wasn't, ever invaded. Like, you think that I mean, think about this. If you're a female, of course, now with females serving in combat, it would be different, right? But back then, like, if you're a male between a certain age, and there's a very high chance you're getting drafted and you're getting sent. You don't even have a choice. A lot of people enlisted, but think about, like, all your favorite male family members, and imagine they're gone. They're gone for a year, 2 years. You don't have social media. You don't know what the hell's going on with them. You get a letter every once a month saying, and that letter is like, probably 2-3 weeks old. So you don't even know if they're dead now, you know? And, the everything in the US economy started to, they had to go on rations. Things were being rationed. And everything in the US economy got shifted over to well, not everything, but most things, to the war effort. And it was, 6 years of really tough things, on top of the fact that, hundreds of thousands of Americans were getting killed or wounded all over the earth. Yeah, here we are today, and we're whining because we can't get toilet paper.
I haven't had a problem with that yet, but I hear some people are having trouble with it.
Right, but that seems to be like the big gripe,
Crazy, man. So
It's
let's talk about leadership a little bit, because you do have a team, you have practices, you have coaching and all that stuff. So what has changed in your leadership style these days? What's different?
Well, I think one thing I'm trying to make sure I do is I'm communicating all the things I'm doing to protect my people. You know, so I'm letting them know. Look, I applied for a disaster loan. I applied for the paycheck protection. I'm gonna get the paycheck protection program set up. Right when this thing started to break out, I had a meeting with everybody. I said, look, here's what's about to happen. And because again, I've been through it, right? Like, you went through it, right? So you can see. It's like that whole thing of, like, if you're walking down the same path in the same forest, where all the holes are. You can tell, okay, around this corner, you're going to fall in a hole. Okay. So if you don't look, so make sure you go. So, once this started to happen, I'm like, okay, so I got my people together. I'm like, look, here's what's going to happen. One, our schedule's going to fall apart. Within 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to have very few to no patients. I don't want anybody to freak out. Do not freak out about it. All right. Because there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. Doesn't do us any good to freak out. Um, and then I told my hourly staff, I said, I've already set aside, because I did the calculations, and I want to say that 80% of their pay, their usual pay, came up to be about 12 grand for 6 weeks. So I'm like, I've set aside 12 grand, or I've set aside, I didn't tell them how much. I'm like, I set aside enough money to make sure you guys are paid for 6 weeks at 80%. And then I'm going to figure out what I can do as far as, all the other stuff, the programs or whatever they end up being. So that helped to kind of help them feel protected, right? And we've just been touching base, and the same thing with I do have a team also for my consulting company, and I kind of did the same thing with them. I'm like, look, just focus on the customers we have, because our customers are on monthly payments. It's a monthly membership. So I'm like, right now we just have to really show up for our customers and take good care of them, because we need them. Some of them are gonna, and we already have had some that have paused their memberships, but most of them are still there. So it's like, hey, we just need to make sure we really, really focus on showing up for our customers, so that they get value right now.
What's that
Because
look like? I think that's a really interesting point, because we're doing the same thing. So what's that look like in your business when you're saying for this digital business, for the coaching, really show up? How do you guys show up?
well, you got to think about what your customers are concerned with right now, and then you got to like feed them content that's going to help allay those concerns, help them make the right decisions, um, help guide them on, like, right now is a really good time to be doing this. Right now is a really good time to be doing this. So one of the things that I've mentioned to them is, one of the things I teach is how to build this really simple funnel, that it's like one funnel that I use to grow my practice to 4 locations. And so I teach them that, right? And a lot of them haven't really done it, or they because they're life's busy, right? They have kids, they have their own practice. Even though the practice isn't as full as they want, they still have to work on it. Then they have to go, and then they go home, they have to do their family thing and all that. Well, right now you got time, so don't waste this time. Like, focus on building your funnel. Don't get so wrapped up, and don't go down the rabbit hole of all the misery and all that. Stay focused on what are some things I can be doing. And then also, like, when it first started happening, one of the things that a lot of us in the medical field, we started to look towards telemedicine. Like, how can we still keep some patients on the schedule by doing these visits, like through Zoom or whatever? And so what I did is I did a real fast pivot on my website. I had to set up a few things to make it really obvious. Hey, we're still taking new patients. We're just doing it through this, and here's da da da. And I basically just showed them everything I was doing from start to finish. Like, I literally turned on Zoom, and did a screen share, and just did it like they were watching me over the shoulder. And I'm like, here's what I'm doing on my website to make sure that we are ready for this, and that people will still request initial consultations. Here's the email I'm sending to my patients. I mean, literally, I was just telling them exactly what to do, so so that they could have some certainty, and that they could um, have some steps to follow, and not feel so like, because, as like, what's going on right now is you have all these people saying, oh, apply for the paycheck. No, don't apply. Oh, wait, unemployment. Wait, but then there's this. And then, so you get all this noise, right? And it just gets amplified. So again, just trying to like be that voice of like, give them, like, you trust me, that I've got your best interest at heart. I'm going to tell you this is the best thing for you to do right now.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Lead them. Give them the
Yep.
light. Right. I
Exactly.
love it. I love it, man. Cool. So we are coming up to the half hour mark. We've covered a lot of ground. My favorite part is just really the perspective. Like, this ain't that bad. Wake up. I love that. Anything else that you wanted to say as we're coming towards the end of this, Chris?
Well, I mean, I like the a little quote that I read and I posted on my wall on Facebook. Tough times don't last, but tough people do.
That's it.
You know,
Oh, that's it. You
and
can't kill us.
and again, this isn't really that tough. We've been in this for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This is the third week. 3 weeks, man. And if people are already having meltdowns after 3 weeks, man, I mean, come on, get serious. Seriously. Like, to me, that's just a total disrespect to the ancestors, to our ancestors who put up with way more. You know, I don't know if you know a lot about your family history, but I'm gonna tell you something. My great grandfather, okay, was in Russia at the time of the Bolshevik Revolution. They were kidnapping all the Jewish boys and taking them and putting them on and running them out on the front lines as the first wave. Anybody who was like, if you were like 11, okay, right? So his parents, who he never saw again for his entire life, okay, his parents dressed him up as a girl and put him on a boat. He came over here 12 years old by himself. Yeah,
That's
all
crazy.
right.
That is
So
crazy.
people who are crying about the fact that they haven't had sales for 3 weeks, y'all need to, like, seriously, like, check yourself, take a step back, and, like, stop making, just stop making a fool out of yourself.
Wow.
Okay.
That dude, I gotta clip that. That's going in the highlight reel right there, brother. All right. So Chris Axelrod, you can find him on Facebook, Chris.Axelrod, Axelrad.
Yeah,
More patience, more impact, and more income. I hope I said that in the right
that's
order.
it.
All right, I said it in the right
Podcast.
order. Yes, sir. Dude, thank you for taking time out, especially on a Saturday. I always love talking to you, and the perspective that you shared today. And I like that you didn't hold back any punches, because we haven't gotten like that yet. So I needed you to be on the show to get a little bit of that in there. Thank you so much, Chris.
No problem, man.
All
All right.
right. You're listening to the dailybreadproject.com. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, and we go live daily on my Facebook page, dailybreadproject.com. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thanks again, Chris.